Juno.
The guest room door wasn't fully closed. Kay stood frozen in the hallway of her boyfriend's Gangnam apartment. Her hand still raised from where she'd been about to knock. She'd only come to bring him the contract papers he'd forgotten at her studio earlier that evening. A quick drop-off before heading back to her own place. Simple. Innocent. But nothing would ever be simple again. The sound came again. A breathy, high-pitched moan that echoed through the quiet apartment. Feminine. Aimless. Loud enough that anyone in the house would hear it. Ah. Yes. Right there. Kay's heart slammed against her ribcage. That voice. She knew that voice. Amanda. Her cousin. Her family. The girl who'd arrived from Lagos 2 months ago with 2 suitcases and desperate eyes, begging to stay with Kay while she figured things out in Seoul. The same girl who'd clung to Kay's arm and whined that she couldn't stay alone in the apartment tonight because she was scared of the strange noises. Please, cousin, let me come with you to Juno's place. I'll just sleep in the guest room. I promise I won't bother you too. And Kay, kind, trusting Kay, had said yes. Now she understood why Amanda had insisted on coming. Why she'd applied that deep red lipstick before they left. Why she changed into that silk nightgown that clung to every curve. Another moan. This one deeper, masculine, familiar in a way that made Kay's stomach turn to ice. You're so beautiful. So much softer. Juno's voice. Her boyfriend of 2 years. The man she'd supported through his failed business ventures. The one whose mother openly disapproved of her dark skin but whom she tried so hard to win over. The man she'd introduced to every contact in her network, helping him secure deals, making him look successful. The rhythmic creaking of the bed frame started. Slow at first, then faster. The guest room headboard knocked against the wall in a steady, unmistakable rhythm. Lump, lump, lump. Oh God, Juno. Don't stop. Amanda's voice was breathy, performative, like she was in some cheap drama. But worse, it was loud. Intentionally loud. As if she wanted to be heard. As if she wanted Kike to know. Kay's legs moved on their own, carrying her closer to the partially open door. Some sick, masochistic part of her needed to see it. Needed confirmation that this nightmare was real. Through the gap she could see them. The lamp was on, another deliberate choice. No fumbling in darkness, no accidental encounter. This was planned. Calculated. Amanda was on the bed, her light skin glowing against the white sheets, her long hair spilled across the pillow. The same bed Kay had helped Juno pick out from IKEA 6 months ago. Amanda's legs were wrapped around Juno's waist, her back arched, her mouth open in exaggerated pleasure. And Juno, God Juno, moved above her with an urgency Kay hadn't seen in months. His hands gripped Amanda's thighs, his face buried in her neck, completely lost in her. You feel incredible, he groaned. Better than. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Better than Kay. Amanda's eyes were half closed in pleasure, but then they opened fully, and for one horrifying moment, they locked with Kay's through the gap in the door. Amanda saw her, and she smiled. A slow, triumphant smile that said everything. I won. Took him. And there's nothing you can do about it. Then Amanda moaned even louder, her performance reaching new heights. Yes, baby. Just like that. You're so good. Kay's hand flew to her mouth, trapping the scream that threatened to tear from her throat. The contract papers slipped from her other hand and fell to the floor with a soft whisper that neither of them heard over their own sounds. This couldn't be real. This was a nightmare. A horrible, twisted nightmare. And any moment she'd wake up in her own bed, alone, safe from this devastating reality. Maybe I'm dreaming, she thought desperately, even as tears burned hot tracks down her cheeks. Let me go back to bed. Let this not be real. Please God, let this not be real. But the sounds continued. The bed creaked faster. Amanda's moans grew louder, more theatrical. Juno's breathing became ragged. And Kay stood there, paralyzed, watching her entire world crumble through a half-open door. Her cousin, her blood, the girl she'd welcomed into her home, fed, helped, supported. And her boyfriend, the man she'd loved. The man she'd sacrificed for. The man whose business she'd built with her own connections while her own dreams waited. Together. In his bed. In their bed. Kay's hands trembled as she stepped back from the door, her breathing shallow and quick. The hallway seemed to tilt, and she reached out to steady herself against the wall. She should scream. She should burst through that door and drag Amanda out by her hair. She should throw things, curse them both, make them feel even a fraction of the devastation that was tearing through her chest. But she didn't. Instead, a cold, calm clarity settled over her like frost. Her tears stopped. Her breathing slowed. Her hands stilled. She looked at them one more time through that gap. Amanda's smug expression, Juno's closed eyes, their bodies intertwined in betrayal, and she made a decision. She would watch. She would wait. She would gather evidence. And then she would destroy them both. Silently, Kay pulled out her phone and started recording. The night her heart broke was the night her revenge was born. Kay walked back to Juno's bedroom like a ghost, her feet soundless on the hardwood floor. Behind her, the moans continued, a soundtrack to her destruction. She closed the door softly, climbed into his bed still wearing her clothes, and pulled the covers over her head. The silk sheets smelled like his cologne, that expensive Tom Ford scent she'd bought him for his birthday. And then, finally, she let herself break. The sobs came silently, her body shaking so violently she had to bite down on the pillow to keep from making noise. Tears soaked the fabric beneath her face. Her chest felt like it was caving in, ribs cracking under the weight of betrayal. How long? She wondered through the haze of pain. How many times had they done this? She thought about every smile Amanda had given her. Every "thank you, cousin," and "you're so good to me." Every morning Amanda had sat across from her at breakfast, acting innocent, while probably remembering how she'd spent the night before. Juno. God, Juno. Every "I love you" he'd whispered. Every time he'd cancelled their dates because he was tired or busy with work. Every time his kisses had felt distant, distracted. Now she knew where his energy had gone. The sounds from the guest room finally stopped around 2 a.m. I heard footsteps. Juno's, padding to the bathroom. Water running. Then returning to the guest room, not to his own bedroom where she lay pretending to sleep. He didn't even check on her. When morning light crept through the curtains, Kay's eyes were swollen nearly shut, but she'd made a decision. She got up, washed her face with cold water until the puffiness reduced, and applied makeup with the precision of armor. Foundation, concealer, perfect neutral lip. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. But that was good. That woman looked strong, untouchable. She walked out to the kitchen where Amanda sat at the counter in one of Juno's t-shirts, eating yogurt and scrolling through her phone. Fresh-faced, glowing, satisfied. "Morning, cousin," Amanda said sweetly, not looking up. "You came in so late last night. I didn't even hear you. Liar." "Good morning," Kay replied, her voice steady. She poured herself coffee, her hands perfectly still. "Did you sleep well? Like a baby?" Amanda finally looked up, and there it was again, that hint of a smirk. Testing. Waiting to see if Kiekie knew. Kay smiled. "That's good. The guest bed is comfortable." Juno emerged from his room, hair wet from a shower, avoiding Kay's eyes. "Morning," he mumbled, heading straight for his coffee. "Morning, baby," Amanda said brightly. "Baby." She called him baby, right in front of Kiekie. Juno's eyes widened slightly. "Amanda." "What?" Amanda's eyes were innocent, cruel. "Oh, sorry. I meant Juno Oppa." She giggled. "I keep mixing up Korean honorifics." Kay took a slow sip of her coffee, watching them both over the rim of her cup. Juno looked uncomfortable, guilty. Amanda looked triumphant. "I have to go," Kay said calmly, setting down her cup. "Early meeting with a client." She kissed Juno on the cheek, felt him stiffen, and walked out with her head high. The moment she got to her car, she pulled out her phone and opened the video she'd recorded. 43 seconds of damning evidence. Juno's face. Amanda's voice. The unmistakable intimacy of betrayal. She saved it in 3 different locations. Cloud. External drive. Sent it to her private email. Then she went to work. Over the next week, Keke became a detective in her own life. She watched them. Really watched them. The way Amanda touched Juno's arm when she thought Ko wasn't looking. How Juno's phone was suddenly always face down. How Amanda volunteered to run errands at the exact times Juno said he had meetings. Kike said nothing. Nothing. Suspected everything. She started taking photos. Amanda leaving the apartment in designer clothes Kay knew she couldn't afford. Gifts from Juno, no doubt. Screenshots of Amanda's Instagram stories, tagged at restaurants Juno had claimed to be too busy to take it to. She documented it all with the cold precision of someone building a legal case. But the evidence that broke her resolve came from an unexpected source. Juno's mother called. The woman who'd looked at Kay's dark skin with barely concealed distaste, who'd asked her son if he was sure about this choice, invited her to lunch. Kay went curious despite herself. Mrs. Park sat across from her at an expensive Gangnam restaurant, ordered in Korean without asking what Kay wanted, then got straight to the point. "I've met your cousin Amanda," she said in accented English. "She came to our family dinner last Sunday." Kay's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. "What? She's lovely. Very pretty. Looks almost Korean." Mrs. Park's eyes were cold, calculating. "She would photograph well for our family image." The implication hung in the air like poison. "My Juno needs someone who understands our culture. Someone who fits." Mrs. Park dabbed her mouth with a napkin. "I think it's better if you step aside." Gracefully, Kay set down her cup with deliberate care. "You're asking me to let your son cheat on me. I'm asking you to be realistic." Mrs. Park's smile was razor-sharp. "Amanda wants him. He wants her. And she's better suited to our family. Why make this difficult?" Kay stood, her chair scraping against the floor. Every eye in the restaurant turned to watch. "Thank you for lunch, Mrs. Park," she said clearly, her voice carrying. "And thank you for showing me exactly who you are." She walked out, leaving the older woman staring after her. But it was the phone call to Amanda's mother that truly ended everything. Kay made the call from her studio, surrounded by half-finished designs and fabric samples. Her aunt, Amanda's mother, answered on the third ring, her voice warm with family affection. "Kye, my dear, how are you? How is Amanda doing in Seoul?" "Auntie," Kay said quietly, "I need to tell you something about Amanda." She explained it all. The betrayal. Evidence. The calculated cruelty. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, "Kay, you know Amanda has always struggled. She's insecure about her place in the world. Maybe if she wants him you should let her have him." The words hit like a physical blow. "What?" Kay whispered. "You're successful. Beautiful. You'll find someone else easily. But Amanda needs this. She needs to feel chosen. Special." Her aunt sighed. "Can't you just be the bigger person? For family." Family. The word that had kept Kike silent. The word that had made her open her home, her life, her relationships to people who would destroy her without hesitation. "I understand, Auntie," Kay said softly. "Thank you for making it clear." She hung up. For a long moment, she sat in the silence of her studio, surrounded by her dreams-made fabric. Then she pulled out her laptop and opened her bank account. Her savings. The money she'd been setting aside for their future, hers and Juno's. The emergency fund. The investment account. All hers. She opened a new document and started typing. Studio lease. 2-bedroom apartment in Itaewon. Moving company. Schedule for next Saturday. Phone plan. New number. Business plan. Expand design line. Focus on Afro-Korean fusion. Contacts to activate. Buyers from London, Lagos, New York who'd shown interest. By the time the sun set, Kay had a plan. Not for revenge, not yet. But for escape. For rebirth. She moved out on a Saturday while Juno was at a business meeting, and Amanda was at the spa. She didn't leave a note. Didn't take anything that belonged to him. Just her clothes, her designs, her equipment, and her dignity. The new studio apartment in Itaewon had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was smaller than what she'd imagined sharing with Juno, but it was hers. Every corner of it. She set up her sewing machines, pinned her sketches to the walls. arranged her fabric by color until the room looked like a rainbow. Then she sat on the floor in the empty living room and pulled out her phone. She looked at the video one last time. Juno and Amanda, their betrayal captured in damning clarity. She could post it, ruin them both with one click. But Kie was smarter than that. Revenge served cold was revenge served best. Instead, she opened her professional Instagram. The account she'd been building slowly, posting her designs, her inspiration, her vision. She posted a photo of her new studio space. Sunlight streaming through the windows, her sewing machine ready for work. The caption was simple. New space. New energy. New chapter. Fire. Within an hour it had 50 likes. By the end of the night 200. By morning, a boutique owner from Hongdae had messaged asking about her upcoming collection. Claire read the message, then looked around her empty apartment. No Juno. No Amanda. No family who would choose her pain over her peace. Just her dreams, and a burning determination to prove them all wrong. She opened her design software and started creating. A fusion piece. Bold Nigerian Ankara print meeting Korean hanbok structure. The colors were fierce. Deep burgundy, electric gold, midnight black. The kind of design that demanded attention. The kind of design that said, I am here, I am powerful, and you will remember my name. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Hours passed. The city lights twinkled below. And somewhere in the focused intensity of creation, Keke felt it. The pain transforming, crystallizing, becoming fuel. Her phone buzzed with messages. Juno asking where she was, Amanda calling repeatedly. Her aunt sending passive-aggressive texts about family unity. Kay turned her phone face down and kept working. The girl they'd betrayed was gone. The woman who would make them regret it was just being born. 3 months after Kay disappeared from their lives, Amanda should have been happy. She had everything she wanted. Juno in her bed every night, his credit card in her purse, his mother's grudging acceptance. She'd moved into his apartment permanently, taken over the closet space Kay left behind, even redecorated with lighter colors to erase any trace of the woman who came before. But happiness felt like sand slipping through her fingers. Because everywhere she looked, she saw a rising. Started small. An Instagram post showing Keke's designs featured in a trendy Itaewon boutique. Then a Korean fashion blogger wearing one of her Afro-Korean fusion pieces. Then a small article in Seoul magazine. Rising designer bridges two cultures with bold vision. Amanda scrolled through Ke's Instagram obsessively. Her perfectly manicured nails clicking against her phone screen. Each post showed Ke glowing, radiant in her studio, laughing with other designers, her dark skin luminous against vibrant fabrics. She looked free, successful, unbothered. And it made Amanda's stomach churn with something ugly. Baby, she said one evening, curling up next to Juno on the couch. You haven't talked to Keke at all, right? Juno's jaw tightened. Amanda, we've discussed this. I just need to know you're completely done with her. Amanda's voice took on that whining quality she knew he hated, but she couldn't help it. She's everywhere now. Her designs, her face. What if she tries to contact you? She won't. Juno sounded tired. He'd been tired a lot lately. And even if she did, I wouldn't respond. Block her number. Delete her from everything. Amanda sat up, her insecurity sharpening into demands. I mean it, Juno. I can't relax knowing she could just call you whenever she wants. Fine. He pulled out his phone and blocked Ke's number with sharp, irritated movements. Happy now. Amanda smiled and kissed his cheek, but inside the paranoia still writhed. Because blocking a number didn't erase history. Didn't erase the way Juno sometimes stared into space with a look that seemed like regret. She needed Ke gone. Not just from Juno's phone but from his mind. From soul. From existence. The announcement came on a Wednesday. Afro-Soul Fusion. A runway showcase. Emerging designer Keke Okonkwo presents her debut collection at the Dongdaemun Design Plaza. A celebration of African and Korean cultures intertwined. September 15th, 7 p.m. Amanda stared at the Instagram post, her heart racing. The flyer was gorgeous. Kei's silhouette against a backdrop of traditional Korean architecture merged with African patterns. Professional. Expensive looking. The comments were already rolling in. Can't wait for this. Finally someone doing something original in Seoul fashion. She's going to blow up, mark my words. Amanda's hands trembled as she scrolled. This wasn't just a small boutique showcase. This was real. The DDP was prestigious. Fashion industry people would attend. Buyers, press, influencers. If Kei succeeded here, she'd be untouchable. Amanda couldn't let that happen. She thought about Juno's business contacts, the ones Kei had connected him with in the first place. About his mother's socialite friends who attended these events. About how everyone would whisper, "Isn't that the girl Juno dated before Amanda?" They'd compare them. And Amanda knew, deep in the insecure core of her being, which one would shine brighter. She needed to act. Finding someone to do her dirty work was easier than expected. A friend of a friend knew a girl who'd been fired from a design house for stealing. Bitter, broke, willing. They met at a dark cafe in Gangnam, Amanda wearing overseer sunglasses despite the evening hour. "I need you to get into the DDP on September 14th, Amanda said, sliding an envelope across the table. "The night before the show. There will be a piece, the final look, the showstopper. Probably on a dress form, probably covered." The girl Mina raised an eyebrow. "And destroy it. I don't care how. Scissors, bleach, rip it apart. Just make sure it can't be worn." "That's insane. The security. There's 50,000 won in that envelope. There'll be another 50 when it's done." Amanda leaned forward. "I have a friend who works building maintenance. She'll get you in through the service entrance at midnight. You'll have 20 minutes. Mina stared at the envelope, then at Amanda. "Why? Does it matter?" "Oz." Then Mina took the money. "Text me the details." Kei had never worked so hard in her life. The collection was everything. 15 pieces that told a story of diaspora, belonging and beauty. Traditional Korean hanbok structures in bold African prints. Modern silhouettes with traditional embroidery. Each piece was a conversation between her two worlds. But the finale piece, the dress she'd poured 3 months of soul into, was her masterpiece. A floor-length gown that merged a hanbok's elegant lines with the vibrant geometry of Nigerian Ankara fabric. Hand-embroidered with gold thread that caught the light like fire. The kind of dress that would photograph beautifully, that would make people stop and stare. Her friend Yuna, a fellow designer, had been helping her prepare all week. "This is going to change everything for you," Yuna said, carefully steaming the masterpiece dress. "I can feel it." Kei smiled, exhausted but hopeful. "I just want people to see it. To understand what I'm trying to say. They will. Trust me." They worked until 11 p.m. the night before the show, then locked everything securely in the DDP's backstage area. The venue coordinator assured them the space would be monitored overnight. Kei went home and slept dreamlessly for the first time in months. The phone call came at 6 a.m. "Kieke." Yuna's voice was shaking. "You need to get to the DDP. Now." Kei's heart dropped. "What's wrong? Just come. Please." She threw on clothes and took a taxi, her mind spiraling through possibilities. Lost shipment. Venue issues. Technical problems. Nothing prepared her for what she found. The backstage area was chaos. Security guards, the venue coordinator looking devastated, and in the center of it all, her masterpiece dress. Or what was left of it. The fabric had been shredded. Long cuts ran through the embroidered sections, destroying hours of intricate work. Someone had poured something dark, coffee, ink, across the bodice. The gold thread was torn away in places, leaving ragged holes. It was ruined, completely, utterly ruined. Kei's knees gave out. She sank to the floor, her hands hovering over the destroyed fabric, afraid to touch it. Afraid that touching it would make it real. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Yuna knelt beside her, tears streaming down her face. Security footage shows someone came in through the service entrance at midnight. They're reviewing it now, but the show is in 13 hours. Kei's voice was hollow. This was the finale. This was everything. She'd spent 3 months on this dress. Every stitch perfect, every detail intentional. It was supposed to be her statement, her proof that she belonged in this industry. And now it was garbage. Kay picked up a shredded piece of fabric and felt something break inside her. The tears came then, hot and angry and devastated. She'd survived betrayal, abandonment, and heartbreak. She'd built herself back up from nothing. But this felt like the universe telling her she'd never be enough. I can't do this, she sobbed. I can't do the show without it. I don't have time to, I can't. Yuna grabbed her shoulders. Look at me. Kay, look at me. Kay raised her tear-stained face. We have 13 hours, Yuna said fiercely. I'm calling everyone I know. Every designer, every seamstress who owes me a favor. We're going to rebuild this. It's impossible. So was leaving your cheating boyfriend and starting over in a new studio. So was creating this entire collection by yourself. Yuna stood, pulling Ka up with her. You're Kea Okonkwo. You don't quit. Within an hour, Yuna had assembled a team. 5 designers arrived with their kits. 2 brought extra fabric, not identical to the original but close enough. 1 brought her industrial sewing machine. Another brought enough coffee to fuel a small army. They worked like surgeons, salvaging what could be saved, reconstructing what couldn't. The design evolved as they worked. Different but still powerful. Maybe even more powerful because of the collective hands that created it. Kay worked through her tears, through her exhaustion, through the voice in her head that whispered she should just give up. At 5 p.m., 2 hours before the show, they finished. The new dress wasn't identical to her original vision. The fabric was slightly different. Some of the gold embroidery was replaced with bronze. The silhouette had been modified out of necessity. But it was stunning. Raw and fierce and real. It's perfect, Yuna said, her voice thick with emotion. Kay touched the fabric gently, reverently. It's better than perfect. It survived. The runway show started at 7 p.m. sharp. The DDP was packed. Buyers, press, influencers, and Seoul's fashion elite filled the seats. Kay peeked from backstage and felt her stomach flip. This was it. Everything she'd worked for. The lights dimmed. Music started. A fusion of Afrobeat and traditional Korean instruments. The first model walked out in Keke's opening piece, and the crowd murmured with appreciation. Then the second, third. Each piece building on the last, telling the story of 2 cultures in conversation. By the 8th look, people were taking notes. By the 12th, they were taking photos. And then came the finale. The music swelled. The lights shifted to warm gold. The final model, a stunning Korean-Nigerian woman Kie had found through Instagram, stepped onto the runway in the reconstructed masterpiece dress. The audience gasped. The dress moved like liquid fire under the lights, the bronze embroidery catching every beam. The fusion of Hanbok and Ankara was seamless, powerful, unapologetic. The model reached the end of the runway and paused, chin high, letting the dress speak for itself. Then the applause started. Not polite golf claps, but real enthusiastic applause. People stood. Cameras flashed. Someone in the back shouted, "Brava!" Kay felt tears streaming down her face, but these were different from this morning's tears. These were triumph. Yuna hugged her tight. You did it. You actually did it. The model returned backstage, and Kay was supposed to take her bow. But as she moved toward the runway, someone grabbed her arm. He turned. Juno stood there, somehow having gotten backstage. His eyes wild and desperate. Hey, wait. We need to talk. She stared at him. He looked different, thinner, tired. His usual polish was gone, replaced by something almost manic. You can't just disappear like this, he continued, his grip tightening. I made a mistake. We can fix this. You and me, we were good together. Let go of me. His voice was ice. I'm serious. Amanda, she's not. I realize now that you were the one. You made me better. My business is struggling without your connections. And I just... Security. Yuna's voice rang out. 2 security guards appeared instantly, moving toward Juno. Kieke, please. Juno's voice rose desperately. Don't do this. We can start over. I love you. The commotion was drawing attention. Models backstage stopped to watch. Someone from the audience peeked through the curtain. And someone was definitely recording. Sir, you need to leave, one security guard said firmly. I'm not leaving without her. Juno tried to pull Keke closer. She's mine. We belong together. I was never yours, Kei said quietly, yanking her arm free. And I never will be again. The security guards grabbed Juno, one on each arm, and began dragging him toward the exit. He fought them, still shouting. You'll regret this. You need me. Without me, you're nothing. Keke. Kieke. His voice echoed through the backstage area as they hauled him out. The models stood frozen, shocked. The music had stopped. Yuna appeared at Kieke's side. Are you okay? Kei straightened her shoulders, wiped her eyes, and took a breath. I'm perfect. Let's finish this. She walked onto the runway to take her bow. The audience, having heard the commotion, erupted in even louder applause. They'd seen her thrown off balance and watched her compose herself. Made her human, real, even more compelling. Kei stood center stage, the lights warm on her skin, and bowed deeply. When she looked up, she saw it, the respect in their eyes. Interest. The recognition that they'd just witnessed something special. A buyer from a major Seoul department store approached her immediately after. 3 fashion bloggers wanted interviews. An investor slipped her his card with a knowing smile. But the best moment came from her phone, which buzzed constantly with notifications. Someone had filmed Juno's meltdown and posted it online. The video was already going viral. Desperate ex makes scene at girlfriend's successful runway show. The comments were merciless. Imagine fumbling a baddie this hard. She's literally glowing and he's out here looking pathetic. This is what happens when you cheat and realize you downgraded. Security throwing him out sent me skull. By midnight it had 500,000 views. Juno's carefully curated image, the successful businessman, the eligible bachelor, cracked wide open. People started digging. Found his business was struggling. Found photos of him with Amanda, then older photos with Kiekie, putting together the cheating timeline. The internet had decided. He was the villain, and Kiekie. She was the queen who'd risen from the ashes. She sat in her studio that night, surrounded by congratulations messages, investor inquiries, and interview requests, and finally let herself smile. Her first victory. But certainly not her last. The pregnancy test sat on the bathroom counter like a tiny bomb. 2 pink lines. Amanda stared at it, her hands shaking. She should have been happy. This was supposed to secure everything. Juno would have to stay with her now. His traditional Korean family would insist on marriage. She'd finally have the legitimacy she craved. But as she looked at her reflection in the mirror, all she felt was dread. Because Juno had been different since the runway incident. Distant. Cold. He came home late, barely touched her. Spent hours scrolling through Kai's Instagram with an expression Amanda couldn't read. The viral video had destroyed him in ways Amanda hadn't anticipated. His business contacts stopped returning calls. His mother's friends whispered at gatherings. Potential investors suddenly had concerns about his judgment and professionalism. But worse than the public humiliation was the private realization Amanda saw dawning in his eyes every day. He'd made a catastrophic mistake. Juno, Amanda called out, clutching the pregnancy test. Baby, I need to tell you something. He was in the living room, tie loosened, staring at his laptop with the defeated posture of a man watching his world crumble. What? He didn't look up. I'm pregnant. The silence stretched for several long seconds. Then Juno closed his laptop slowly and turned to face her. His expression was completely blank. How far along? 6 weeks. Maybe 7. Amanda moved closer, trying to read his face. Isn't this wonderful? We're going to be parents. Your mother will be so. My mother. Juno laughed, but it was a bitter, hollow sound. Right. My mother. He stood abruptly and walked to the window, his back to her. Amanda felt panic rising in her chest. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. Juno, say something. Aren't you happy? Happy. He repeated the word like it was foreign. Amanda, I've lost 3 major contracts this month. My biggest investor just pulled out. I'm bleeding money, my reputation is in shambles, and now you're telling me. He stopped himself. Telling you what? That we're having a baby. Amanda's voice rose shrilly. That we're going to be a family. Juno turned to face her, and the look in his eyes made her blood run cold. It wasn't anger. It was absence. Like he was looking at a stranger he didn't particularly like. Sure, he said flatly. A family. Then he grabbed his jacket and walked out, leaving Amanda standing alone with a pregnancy test still clutched in her hand. What Amanda didn't know was that Juno's business collapse wasn't entirely organic. Kei had been playing chess while everyone else played checkers. Started subtly. Conversation here, a careful word there. Kei had built real relationships in Seoul's business community. Not transactional ones like Juno's, but genuine connections based on mutual respect and her undeniable talent. When Mr. Kim, a major textile investor, mentioned over coffee that he was considering backing Juno's import expansion, Kei simply said, "Of course it's your decision. I just wonder about long-term reliability. Professionalism matters in this industry." She showed him the viral video. Let him draw his own conclusions. When Mrs. Choi, who ran a distribution network, asked Kei's opinion on Juno's character, Kei smiled sadly. "I'd rather not speak poorly of anyone, but perhaps look closely at how he handles personal relationships. That often reflects business ethics." She never lied, never exaggerated, just planted seeds of doubt and let Juno's own actions water them. The investors started asking questions, looking deeper, finding the mismanagement, the flashy spending, the lack of substance beneath the surface polish. Juno had always relied on appearance over competence. Expensive cars he couldn't afford, designer clothes on credit, lavish dinners to impress clients, paid for with money that should have gone to building actual infrastructure. Kei had once covered those gaps with her connections and credibility. Without her, the house of cards collapsed. His biggest contract, a major import deal with a Japanese manufacturer, fell through when the manufacturer called Kei for a reference. Juno Park, she'd said thoughtfully. Ambitious, certainly. But I'd want everything in writing. Very detailed writing. And maybe a lawyer review the terms carefully. The deal died within a week. 2 months into Amanda's pregnancy, the money was gone. The Mercedes got repossessed first. Then the luxury apartment became unaffordable. Juno's mother, watching her son's empire crumble, went from disappointed to furious. "This is what happens when you choose poorly," Mrs. Park said coldly during one of her increasingly rare visits. She looked at Amanda's growing belly with undisguised distaste. "You threw away a woman of substance for this." Amanda bristled. "I'm carrying your grandchild. A grandchild born from betrayal and deception." Mrs. Park's voice could have frozen fire. "Do you think that brings honor to our family? Your son wanted me. My son is a fool. But you," Mrs. Park stepped closer, her eyes hard. "You are a snake who came into another woman's home and took what wasn't yours. And now you're shocked that nothing gold can stay." The words hit like slaps, but Amanda lifted her chin. "Juno loves me." Mrs. Park laughed, a short, sharp bark. "Juno loves the idea of you. The image. But love. Child, he doesn't even love himself anymore. How could he love you?" After she left, Amanda found Juno in the bedroom, once again scrolling through Kei's Instagram. Her latest post showed her at a design conference in Tokyo, glowing in a suit she'd designed herself, standing between 2 major international buyers. The caption read, "Grateful for new partnerships and bigger dreams. Globe showing Europe-Africa sparkles." It had 20,000 likes. "She's in Tokyo," Juno muttered almost to himself. "Stop looking at her posts." Amanda snatched the phone from his hands. "I'm here. I'm pregnant with your baby. Why can't you see me?" Juno looked at her, and for a moment, Amanda saw something crack in his expression. "I see you, Amanda. That's the problem. I see exactly who you are. And I'm realizing. So am I. What does that mean?" "It means we deserve each other." He took his phone back. But I deserved her. The words landed like a death sentence on whatever was left of their relationship. The final explosion came on a Sunday dinner at Mrs. Park's house. Amanda, now 5 months pregnant and showing, had insisted they attend despite Juno's warnings that his mother was in a mood. Mrs. Park had prepared a traditional Korean meal, an elaborate spread that Amanda couldn't eat half of because of her pregnancy sensitivities. Every dish felt like a deliberate test Amanda was failing. In Korea, pregnant women eat mayakguk, Mrs. Park commented, watching Amanda push away the seaweed soup. It's traditional. Good for the baby. But I suppose you wouldn't know our traditions. I'm trying, Amanda started. Trying. Mrs. Park set down her chopsticks with a sharp click. You tried your way into my son's bed while he was with another woman. You tried your way into this family with manipulation and lies. And now you're trying to trap him with a pregnancy. Mother. Juno began, but Mrs. Park cut him off. No. I've been silent long enough. She turned her full attention to Amanda. You think I don't know what you did? How you seduced him? How you played on his weaknesses and his vanity? Amanda's hands clenched into fists. Your son wanted me. He chose me. He chose poorly. Because of you, his business is ruined. His reputation is destroyed. And my family name is dragged through mud. Mrs. Park's voice was rising now, years of restrained disgust finally breaking free. That woman, Kay, she brought him success, connections, respect. She elevated him. And what have you brought? Nothing but shame. That woman. Amanda shot to her feet, her chair scraping harshly against the floor. That dark-skinned woman who wasn't good enough for your precious family image. That's who you're defending now. The slap came so fast Amanda didn't see it coming. Mrs. Park's hand connected with Amanda's cheek with a sharp crack that echoed through the dining room. Amanda stumbled backward, her hand flying to her face, her eyes wide with shock. You dare! Mrs. Park's voice shook with rage. You dare speak of her that way. A woman worth 10 of you. A woman with talent, grace, and integrity. Something feral awoke in Amanda. All the months of insecurity, jealousy, and feeling like second choice coalesced into pure rage. She slapped Mrs. Park back. The sound seemed to freeze time itself. Juno stood abruptly, his chair falling backward. Amanda, what the fuck? Mrs. Park touched her cheek, her expression shifting from shock to something absolutely glacial. Get out, she said quietly. Get out of my house. Out of my son's life. Out of my family. You can't just... Amanda started. Get out. Mrs. Park's scream was primal. You ungrateful, scheming little snake. You think you can put your hands on me? In my own home. He turned to Juno. If you don't remove her from my sight in the next 10 seconds, I will call the police and have her arrested for assault. And I will cut you off completely. No more help. No more money. No more family. Juno looked between his mother and Amanda saw the calculation in his eyes. Saw him weighing his options. Saw him choose. Let's go, he said to Amanda, grabbing her arm roughly. Juno. Now. He practically dragged her out of the house. They got into his beat-up replacement car, a used Hyundai that was a far cry from the repossessed Mercedes, and drove in thick silence. I can't believe she hit me, Amanda finally said, her voice trembling. I'm pregnant. She hit a pregnant woman. You hit her first. Juno's voice was dead. After she hit me. She's my mother, Amanda. Juno pulled over suddenly, the car jerking to a stop on a random street. He turned to face her, and the exhaustion in his expression was profound. She's my mother and you slapped her. Do you understand what you've done? She deserved it. No. Juno's laugh was broken. No, Amanda. You don't get it. That was it. That was the last thread connecting me to my family, to their money, to any chance of rebuilding what I lost. And you just severed it. We don't need them. We have each other. We have nothing. The words exploded out of him. I have nothing. My business is dead, my reputation is ruined, my mother just disowned me, and I'm trapped with a woman I don't even. He stopped himself, but the damage was done. A woman you don't even what? Amanda's voice was small, terrified. Juno stared straight ahead through the windshield. A woman I don't even know why I chose. The truth hung between them like poison gas. I'm pregnant with your child, Amanda whispered. I know. Doesn't that mean anything? Juno closed his eyes. It means I'm trapped. It means we're both trapped in a life neither of us really wanted. It means I traded everything. My business, my family, my self-respect, and the only woman who actually gave a damn about me. For what? For this. He gestured vaguely at the two of them, the cheap car, the shambles of their existence. Amanda felt tears streaming down her face. You're saying you regret me. I'm saying I regret everything. Every choice that led here. Every moment of weakness and vanity that made me think you were what I wanted. He opened his eyes and looked at her, and there was nothing in his gaze but hollow resignation. I'm saying that Keike is in Tokyo building an empire, and I'm sitting in a car I can barely afford with a woman I can barely stand, about to be a father when I can barely feed myself. Then leave, Amanda spat, her sadness curdling into anger. Just leave if I'm so unbearable. And go where? Do what? Juno laughed bitterly. My mother meant what she said. I'm cut off. Financially, socially, everything. And nobody in Seoul's business community will touch me after what happened at that runway show. Kei made sure of that. Kieke. Amanda nearly screamed the name. Always fucking Kei. She's gone. She left. Why can't you let her go? Because she was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was too stupid and shallow to realize it until it was too late. Juno's voice cracked. Because every time I look at you, I remember how I got you. And it makes me sick. The words shattered what was left of Amanda's delusions. She sat in the passenger seat, pregnant and unwanted, realizing with horrible clarity that she'd won nothing at all. She'd gotten the man. But she'd lost everything else, including whatever pride she might have had. Juno started the car again and drove them back to the small, shabby apartment they'd moved into after losing the nice one. It was in a neighborhood Amanda would have sneered at 6 months ago, the kind of place she'd imagined herself escaping, not ending up in. When they got inside, Juno went straight to the bedroom and closed the door. Amanda stood in the living room, hand on her swollen belly, and looked around at her new reality. Cheap furniture, peeling wallpaper, the sound of neighbors arguing through thin walls. She pulled out her phone and opened Instagram, a masochistic habit she couldn't break. Kei's latest story showed her at a fancy Tokyo restaurant, toasting with the international buyers, her smile radiant and genuine. The next story was a boomerang of a hotel room window overlooking Tokyo's glittering skyline, captioned simply, "Room with a view." Amanda looked at her own view, a brick wall and a dumpster. She'd spent so much time trying to destroy Kei, trying to take what was hers, trying to win. But as she stood alone in that shabby apartment, pregnant by a man who regretted her, cut off from his family, struggling financially, and socially exiled, Amanda finally understood the truth. Keikie had already won. The game had been over before Amanda even realized they were playing. And karma, it turned out, was far more creative than simple revenge. The eviction notice came on a Tuesday morning. Amanda stared at the paper taped to their apartment door. 7 months pregnant and swollen in ways that had nothing to do with the baby. Her face was puffy from crying and bad sleep. Her hair, once meticulously maintained, hung limp and unwashed. The designer clothes she'd accumulated during the good months now strained against her changing body. "Juno," she called out, her voice cracking. He emerged from the bedroom in wrinkled clothes, unshaven, looking a decade older than his 32 years. When he saw the notice, he barely reacted. Just nodded like he'd been expecting it. "We have 2 weeks, he said flatly. 2 weeks to what? Where are we supposed to go?" Amanda's voice rose to a near shriek. "I'm about to have a baby. We can't be homeless." "I don't know, Amanda." Juno's voice was so tired it was almost peaceful. "I honestly don't know anymore." He shuffled to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator, nearly empty except for some wilted vegetables and expired milk. They'd been living on instant ramen and cheap kimbap from the convenience store. The glamorous dinners at Gangnam restaurants felt like someone else's life. Amanda watched him and felt something crystallize in her mind. A question she'd been avoiding for months. Juno, she said slowly. How much money did you actually have? Before everything fell apart. He paused, his hand on the refrigerator door. What do you mean? I mean, Amanda moved closer, her heart pounding. The Mercedes, the luxury apartment, the expensive dinners. Where did that money come from? Juno was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed, that same broken, bitter sound she'd come to hate. You really want to know? Yes. He closed the refrigerator and turned to face her. The Mercedes was leased, not bought. The apartment was beyond my actual budget. I was always 2 months behind on rent, juggling credit cards to cover it. The dinners were on cards I couldn't pay off. The designer clothes, the watches, the image. He gestured at himself mockingly. All borrowed. All facade. Amanda felt the ground shift beneath her feet. But your business. My business was failing before I met Kieke. I was drowning. Then she came along and... His voice caught. She introduced me to her contacts, made me look legitimate. Her reputation gave me credibility. Buyers trusted me because they trusted her. Investors backed me because she vouched for me. He sank into a chair, his head in his hands. I was never the successful businessman you thought I was, Amanda. I was a fraud in a nice suit, and Kieke was the only thing holding it together. She was my success. When she left, there was nothing underneath. Just debt and delusion. Amanda's legs felt weak. She gripped the counter for support. You're saying you were never rich? I was never rich. Juno looked up at her, his eyes hollow. I just looked rich. And you fell for the same illusion I was selling everyone else. The realization hit Amanda like a physical blow. She'd destroyed her relationship with Kieke, betrayed her own family, compromised every value she claimed to have, for a man who was essentially broke. She'd traded gold for fool's gold and hadn't even realized it. But your mother, the family money. My mother has money. You don't. She gave me a small allowance, which I spent trying to look like I didn't need it. Juno laughed again. The irony is, if I'd stayed with Kieke, eventually I might have actually become successful. She was building something real. But I wanted the shortcut. Wanted to look powerful without doing the work. He stood and walked to the window, staring out at nothing. And you wanted the image too, didn't you? The Korean boyfriend. The fantasy of being chosen over the dark-skinned girl. The Instagram perfect life. We were both chasing appearances. That's why we fit. Amanda felt nauseous. And it had nothing to do with pregnancy. So everything was a lie. Not a lie. Just not the truth. Juno turned back to her. The real version of me is this. He gestured at the shabby apartment. His unkempt appearance, the eviction notice. This is who I am without Kay propping me up. And this, he pointed at Amanda. This is what we both actually deserve. Amanda sank onto the couch, her hands cradling her belly. The baby kicked. A small, fluttering reminder that she was bringing a child into this disaster. What are we going to do? She whispered. Juno shrugged. I have no idea. My mother won't help. My father stopped taking my calls. I can't get a job because my reputation is destroyed. And in 2 weeks, we'll be on the street. He grabbed his jacket. A cheap one from E-Mart, not designer. Where are you going? Out. Wait. I don't know. He paused at the door. Maybe I'll go find the version of myself that existed before I met you. See if there's anything salvageable. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Amanda sat alone in the apartment that was no longer theirs, carrying a baby they couldn't afford, finally seeing the complete and utter truth. She'd won nothing. She'd lost everything. And the woman she'd tried to destroy was soaring while Amanda drowned. Meanwhile, across the city in the upscale Cheongdam-dong district, Kay was at the gym. Not because she was stressed or trying to prove anything. Simply because it had become part of her routine. A healthy way to start her mornings before diving into the beautiful chaos of running an expanding fashion brand. She was on the treadmill, earbuds in, lost in the rhythm of her run, when she felt someone's presence beside her. She glanced over. The man on the next treadmill was probably in his early 40s, fit in the way that suggested discipline rather than vanity. Salt and pepper hair, kind eyes, an expensive but understated watch. He wasn't staring at her, wasn't trying to catch her attention, just running at a steady pace, focused on his own workout. Kay returned to her run, thinking nothing of it. It was only when she finished and went to grab her water bottle that he spoke. "Excuse me," he said in perfect English with a slight Korean accent. "You're Kei Okonkwo, aren't you?" He turned surprised. "Yes." He smiled, genuine and warm. "I thought so. I saw your Tokyo showcase last month. The Afro-Korean fusion collection. It was remarkable." "You were in Tokyo?" Kay asked, intrigued despite herself. "Business trip. A colleague dragged me to the fashion show. Not usually my scene, but I'm glad she did. Your work is exceptional. The way you merged two distinct cultural aesthetics without losing the integrity of either." He shook his head appreciatively. "That takes real vision." Kay felt herself smiling. Genuine compliments on her work always touched her. "Thank you. That means a lot. I'm Daniel Kong, by the way." He extended his hand. "I run an investment firm focused on emerging creative industries." "But you already knew that." She shook his hand. Firm grip, confident but not aggressive. "Would you like to grab a coffee?" Daniel asked. "I'd love to discuss your brand's growth trajectory. Purely professional. I see significant potential for strategic investment." Kei hesitated. Her experiences with Korean men and their families had left scars, but there was something different about Daniel. He'd approached her about her work, not her appearance. Mentioned her showcase, not her Instagram. Professional interest, not personal agenda. "Coffee sounds good," she said. They went to a quiet cafe nearby, the kind where serious business people conducted actual meetings rather than performative ones. Daniel was direct without being pushy. "I've done my research on your brand. 6 months ago, you were an emerging designer with local traction. Now you're getting international attention, Tokyo and Lagos buyers. Feature articles in major publications. That kind of growth trajectory is rare." "I've worked hard," Kei said simply. "I can see that. But hard work needs capital to scale." He pulled out a tablet, showing her projections. "With proper investment, you could expand production, open a flagship store, attend international fashion weeks. The demand is there. The talent is obviously there. You just need resources." They talked for 2 hours. Daniel asked intelligent questions about her design philosophy, her target market, her 5-year vision. He understood the business side of fashion in a way that impressed her. "I'd like to invest in your brand," he said finally. "Not as a takeover, but as a partner. You maintain creative control and majority ownership. I provide capital and business infrastructure." Kei studied him carefully. "Why? What do you get out of this?" "Return on investment, hopefully." Daniel smiled. "But also the satisfaction of supporting something meaningful. I've spent 20 years investing in tech startups and real estate. Profitable but soulless. Your work has soul. That matters to me. Can I think about it?" "Of course. Take your time. Do your due diligence on me and my firm." He slid a business card across the table. "No pressure." As Kei looked at the card, she realized something. This was what real success looked like. Not flashy cars and fake designer lifestyle, but actual capital, professional respect, strategic growth. This was what Juno had pretended to be but never was. Over the next few weeks, Kei did research Daniel's firm. Impeccable reputation. Successful track record. No scandals, no controversies. His personal life was equally solid. Divorced amicably 3 years ago, 1 adult daughter studying abroad, respected in both Korean and international business communities. They met several more times, always professional, always focused on business. But somewhere between the contract negotiations and brand strategy sessions, Kei noticed other things. The way Daniel listened, really listened when she spoke about her vision. How he asked about her Nigerian heritage with genuine curiosity, not fetishization. How he never once mentioned her skin tone or compared her to anyone else. How he ordered food she could actually eat, remembering her preferences from previous meetings. "You're very detail-oriented," she commented one evening over dinner that had somehow evolved from a business meeting into something more. "Important things deserve attention," Daniel said simply. "And you're building something important." He paused, then added with careful honesty. "Also, I should probably mention that my interest isn't entirely professional anymore. But I wanted the business relationship established first. So you'd know I respect your work before anything else." Kekie appreciated the directness. "Your timing is noted and appreciated." "Good." Daniel smiled. "Because I'd like to take you to dinner sometime." "Actually dinner. Not a business meeting disguised as dinner." "What's the difference?" "I won't bring my tablet. And I'll ask about you, not your quarterly projections." He laughed. A real, genuine laugh that felt foreign after so many months of guardedness. "Okay. Actual dinner. But you should know I have significant trust issues with Korean men and their families." "Understandable. I have a mother who will love you because you're brilliant and successful. She's a retired professor, values substance over appearance." Daniel's expression grew serious. "And for what it's worth, I'm interested in Kea the woman, not Kea the accessory." "There's a difference." "There is," Keke agreed softly. Their actual first date happened the following week. Daniel took her to a rooftop restaurant with a view of Seoul's glittering skyline, expensive but not showy. He asked about her childhood in Lagos, her family, her dreams beyond fashion. "I want to build something that lasts," Kea said. "Not just a brand but a legacy. I want young African girls and Korean girls to see my work and think, I can create something beautiful that honors all of who I am." Daniel reached across the table and took her hand. "Then let's build that together." It wasn't a grand declaration or a dramatic gesture. Just a quiet promise from someone who actually had the resources and integrity to keep it. He looked at their joined hands, his pale against her dark, and felt something shift. Not the desperate, anxious love she'd felt with Juno. Something steadier, more solid, something real. 3 months later, Daniel's investment had transformed Keke's operation. She moved into a proper studio space in Gangnam, hired a small team, expanded her production capacity. Her designs were being featured in major Korean and international fashion magazines. But the real test came when Daniel invited her to meet his mother. Professor Kong lived in an elegant but modest apartment in Bucheon, surrounded by books and art. She was in her 70s, with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. "So you're the designer my son won't stop talking about," she said in English, gesturing for Kate to sit. "Guilty," Kate said, keeping her voice light despite her nervousness. Professor Kong studied her with unnerving intensity. "He showed me your Tokyo collection. The Hanba Conqueror fusion piece. It's brilliant. The way you maintain the structural integrity of the hanbok while incorporating the bold geometric patterns." She leaned forward. "Tell me about your design philosophy." They talked for 2 hours about art, culture, diaspora, and identity. Professor Kong was challenging but never condescending, curious but never invasive. She asked about Keke's work, her thoughts, her perspectives. Not once did she mention Ke's appearance or how she would fit into any family image. When Daniel returned to pick up Ke, his mother pulled him aside, though not quietly enough that Ke couldn't hear. "I like her. She's intelligent, talented, and has substance. Don't mess this up." Daniel grinned. "I'll try not to, Iyama." In the car, Ke felt tears prickling her eyes. "Your mother actually likes me. For me. Of course she does. You're exceptional." Daniel glanced at her with concern. "Did you think she wouldn't?" Ke thought about Mrs. Park's cold disapproval, the constant comparisons, the feeling of never being enough. "Past experience suggested otherwise," she said quietly. Daniel pulled over and turned to face her. "Kie, I need you to understand something. My mother raised me to value character, intelligence, and integrity. Your skin color, your nationality, your anything external, those aren't factors in your worth. They're just parts of who you are." Beautiful parts, but not the sum total. He touched her face gently. I'm falling in love with you because you're brilliant, driven, kind, and talented. Because you light up when you talk about design. Because you're building something meaningful. Because you're you. He kissed him then. A kiss that felt like healing. I'm falling in love with you too, she whispered against his lips. 6 months after that first meeting at the gym, Keke was preparing for her biggest show yet. Seoul Fashion Week had invited her to showcase a full collection. Prime slot, major venue, international press coverage. This wasn't just a career milestone. This was a rival. The collection was her most ambitious. Between two worlds. 20 pieces that told the complete story of her journey. From betrayal to rebirth, from pain to power, from broken to whole. The finale piece was a masterpiece that had taken 4 months to create. A wedding hanbok reimagined with Nigerian oso oak fabric, hand-embroidered with both Korean and Igbo symbols of strength, prosperity, and love. It was a dress that said, I belong to both worlds, and both worlds belong to me. The night before the show, Daniel found her in her studio, still working. You need sleep, he said gently. I need this to be perfect. It already is. You are. He pulled her away from the sewing machine. Keke, you've already won. This show is just the world catching up to what I've known for months. You're extraordinary. She leaned against him, exhausted and exhilarated. Will you walk with me? Tomorrow at the finale. Daniel pulled back to look at her. Walk with you. On the runway. When I take my bow. I want you beside me. Met his eyes. I want everyone to see us together. To see what real support looks like. What real partnership looks like. Are you sure? That's a big statement. I'm sure. You invested in my brand when no one else would. You believed in my vision. You love me for who I am, not who you want me to be. She smiled. That deserves to be seen. Daniel kissed her forehead. Then I'd be honored. Seoul Fashion Week's main venue was packed beyond capacity. Buyers from New York, London, Paris, and Lagos. Major fashion journalists. Korean celebrities. Industry insiders. Everyone who mattered in fashion had come to see Keke Okonkwo's collection. Backstage was controlled chaos. Models, makeup artists, dressers, all moving in synchronized precision. Keke stood in the center of it, calm in the eye of the storm. Her phone buzzed. A message from Yuna. You've got this, Queen. About to change the game. Another from Daniel. Watching from the front row. So proud of you. And then, unexpectedly, one from an unknown number. I'll be there tonight. I need to see you. J. Juno. Kei stared at the message, felt absolutely nothing and deleted it. He was irrelevant now. A footnote in a chapter she'd already closed. The lights dimmed. The music started. A fusion composition she'd commissioned specifically for this show. Afrobeat drums meeting traditional Korean gaegeum strings. The first model walked out. The audience gasped. The opening piece was a structured blazer in bold Ankara print, paired with wide-leg trousers that had the clean lines of Korean menswear. Masculine and feminine. African and Asian. Powerful. Each subsequent piece built on the theme. Kei watched from backstage on the monitor, seeing her vision come to life. Seeing the audience lean forward, captivated. Seeing fashion journalists frantically taking notes. Piece after piece, the story unfolded. Struggle, transformation, triumph. By the 15th look, the audience was completely silent, the kind of silence that meant they were witnessing something significant. And then came the finale. The music swelled. The lights shifted to warm gold. The final model emerged in the wedding hanbok, a vision in ivory oso oak silk and traditional Korean structure. The embroidery caught the light like stars. The silhouette was both traditional and revolutionary. She walked the entire runway in that dress, and the audience erupted in applause before she even reached the end. But Kei wasn't done. She stepped onto the runway herself, wearing a piece she'd designed for this exact moment. A sleek jumpsuit in midnight blue, with gold accents that mirrored the finale dress. Powerful, elegant, unapologetic. Daniel met her at the side of the runway, looking distinguished in a tailored suit. Together they walked to center stage. Kei stood there, a dark-skinned Nigerian woman in Seoul, beside a man who actually valued her, having just presented a collection that would change her life, and bowed deeply. The applause was deafening, a standing ovation that went on for minutes. And then she saw him, Juno, trying to push through the crowd at the side of the venue. Security was already moving toward him, but he was shouting, "Keke, please, I made a mistake. We can fix this. I love you." The same words from months ago. The same desperation. But this time Kay didn't even flinch. She simply looked at him, really looked at him, and felt profound indifference. He looked terrible, thin, unkempt, desperate. The image of success completely stripped away to reveal the hollow man beneath. Security grabbed him, but he kept shouting. People were pulling out phones, recording. The same humiliation replaying itself. "Keke, don't do this. You owe me. I made you. Without me, you're nothing." And that's when Keke did something unexpected. She laughed. Not cruelly. Not mockingly. Just genuinely amused at the absurdity of his delusion. "You made me," she called out, her voice clear and carrying. "Juno, I made you. And when I left, you had nothing left to stand on. That should tell you everything." The crowd murmured. Phones kept recording. Daniel stepped closer, his hand at the small of her back, supportive but not possessive. "Security, please escort him out," Kay said calmly. "He's not on the guest list." As they dragged Juno away, still shouting, still grasping, the crowd actually applauded. The narrative was clear. The desperate ex, the woman who'd outgrown him, the public meltdown. By the time the show ended, the video had already gone viral. Fashion designer's ex causes seen at Seoul Fashion Week again. The comments were merciless. This man really thought he was the prize. She literally glowed up and left him in the dust. "I made you so you made nothing. Security throwing him out twice is sending me." Meanwhile, she's with a man who actually supports her vision. We love to see it. But Kay wasn't focused on Juno or the drama. She was surrounded by buyers wanting to place orders. Investors interested in expansion. Magazine editors requesting interviews. A representative from Lagos Fashion Week inviting her to headline their next show. Daniel stayed by her side through it all, never demanding attention but always supportive when she reached for his hand. At the after-party, Professor Kong approached Kay with champagne and a rare smile. "That was exceptional, dear. You've created something truly meaningful." "Thank you, Professor. Call me Iamoni," the older woman said warmly. "I think we're past formalities." "Iamoni, mother." I felt tears prick her eyes. Acceptance. Real acceptance, not based on how she looked or what she could provide, but on who she was. Across the city, in a tiny apartment that still wasn't technically theirs, Amanda sat on the couch watching the viral video for the 100th time. She was 9 months pregnant, swollen and miserable. Juno hadn't come home in 2 days. They'd been sleeping in his friend's storage room since the eviction, and even that arrangement was ending tomorrow. On her phone screen, Kay glowed in her custom jumpsuit, standing next to a man who looked at her like she hung the moon. Successful, powerful, happy. Everything Amanda had tried to steal, Kay had built herself. Better. The baby kicked hard and Amanda winced. In a few days, maybe a week, she'd give birth. To what kind of life? In what kind of situation? Juno's mother had blocked her number. Her own mother back in Lagos had stopped taking her calls after Amanda had gone months without sending the money she'd promised from her rich Korean boyfriend. She had nothing. No family support. No money. No prospects. Just a baby on the way and a man who regretted her. The door opened. Juno stumbled in, his eyes red. Whether from crying or drinking, Amanda couldn't tell. "Did you see?" he asked. "Did you see her?" "Yes. She's everything now." He sank onto the couch. "And I'm nothing. I really am nothing without her." Amanda wanted to be angry. Wanted to scream that she was right here, pregnant with his child, and he was still obsessed with Kay. But she was too tired, too defeated, too devastated by the complete understanding that she'd destroyed her own life for absolutely nothing. "We both are," Amanda said quietly. "We're both nothing." Juno didn't disagree. They sat together in silence, two people who'd chosen betrayal over integrity, shortcuts over substance, appearances over reality. And they were living with the consequences. 6 months later, Kei stood in her new flagship store in Gangnam. Kie. Afro-Korean fusion fashion. The store was beautiful. Modern minimalist design with bold African and Korean art pieces. Her collections hung like works of art. Buyers from around the world had standing orders. She'd been featured in Vogue, invited to Paris Fashion Week, and signed deals with major department stores in 3 countries. And through it all, Daniel had been there. Not trying to control or manage her, but supporting. Investing not just money but belief. They'd moved in together last month. A penthouse apartment with views of the Han River. His daughter had visited from London and immediately bonded with Kie over fashion and art. Professor Kong had dinner with them weekly. Felt like family. Real family. That evening, as Kie was closing the store, Daniel appeared with flowers. Not roses, but African lilies mixed with Korean chrysanthemums. For the woman who bridges worlds, he said. Kie kissed him. You're ridiculously romantic. Only for you. He paused, suddenly nervous in a way she'd never seen. Actually, I have something to ask you. He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it. The ring inside was stunning. A sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, the design incorporating both Korean and Nigerian elements. Keke Okonkwo, would you marry me? Not because you need me or I need you, but because we choose each other. Every day. On purpose. They looked at the ring, at this man who'd proven his worth through actions, not words, who'd invested in her dreams and valued her wholeness. She thought about the girl who'd cried herself to sleep watching her boyfriend betray her. About the woman who'd risen from that betrayal to build an empire. About the journey from broken to whole. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, absolutely yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, and it fit perfectly. Later that night, Kei posted a photo on Instagram. Her hand with the ring, Daniel's arm around her waist, the Seoul skyline behind them. The caption was simple. New chapter with someone who sees my worth. Building empire with someone who values my vision. Grateful for the journey. Excited for what's next. Ring sparkles. Within hours, it had hundreds of thousands of likes. Messages poured in from designers, buyers, friends, supporters. But the most meaningful came from Professor Kong. Welcome to the family, daughter. We're blessed to have you. Somewhere across the city, Amanda probably saw the post. Juno probably saw it too. But Kei didn't think about them anymore. They were characters in a story she'd already finished writing. She had new stories to tell now. Better stories. Stories where she was the heroine who'd saved herself, built her own empire, and found love that honored rather than diminished her. The dark-skinned girl had won, not through revenge or destruction, but through the simple act of refusing to shrink, continuing to grow, and choosing to become so successful that her betrayers became irrelevant. And that, Kei thought as Daniel pulled her close and whispered promises of their future, was the sweetest victory of all. Prologue. 2 years later, Kei and Daniel married in Lagos during Fashion Week. The wedding was a fusion ceremony. Korean and Nigerian traditions intertwined, just like her designs. Professor Kong wore custom Ankara. Daniel wore a traditional Nigerian agbada with Korean design elements. Keike's dress was her own creation, a masterpiece that had been featured in every major fashion magazine before the wedding even happened. Her brand was now international. Stores in Seoul, Lagos, London, and New York. A collaboration with a major Korean luxury brand. A documentary about her journey in production. And somewhere in a small apartment in a cheap neighborhood, Amanda lived as a single mother. Juno had left 8 months after the baby was born, unable to handle the reality of fatherhood and poverty. His family never acknowledged the child. Amanda worked multiple jobs to survive, scrolling through Kai's Instagram late at night with a mixture of envy and regret so profound it had become part of her identity. She'd learned the hard way. You can take something that isn't yours, but you can't make it valuable. You can steal a man, but you can't make him yours. You can destroy someone's relationship, but you can't build your own on that foundation. The universe has a way of balancing scales. And Kie, she was busy building. creating, loving, living. The girl who'd been betrayed had become the woman who couldn't be broken. And that was the best revenge of all.